Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. We're going to be talking about one of my passions today, and that's marketing and agencies and all those fun things. We're going to be talking about how we need to support each other. And so please join me in welcoming Audrey Kwan to our program today. Welcome, Audrey. How are you?
Hey, Deb. Thank you so much for having me here. I am doing well today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let me tell people just a little bit about you, and then we will jump into this. So, Audrey Joy Kwan coaches and consults with agency owners to free them from client delivery, empower them to lead more effectively, and grow seven-figure agencies. She has been in the agency space for over 20 years, has a master's degree in communication focused on organizational development, and has supported agency owners to sell and exit by helping them build a business that gives them more than time back. Audrey hosts the Small But Mighty Agency podcast and a community called Agency Together. Agency Together is a referral network to help agency owners get consistent referrals and grow their business through more collaboration and less competition. She is on a mission to end the dog-eat-dog agency world. In other words, eliminate the belief that one agency's gain is another's loss by helping grow niche agencies and bring them together to get more referrals and strategic collaborations. So again, Audrey, welcome.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you for reading that introduction. I really appreciate it. And it's the perfect summary of my life's work, my body of work that I've built across the last 20 years.
I love it. I love it. Well, I always know because I enjoy it, right? I love hearing about my guests' background. How did you get to where you are today?
Oh, I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. I wasn't one of those people who thought, okay, I'm gonna finish school and start a business. That wasn't really the path that I had set out. I think for me, I started my journey thinking that I was going to end up being a lawyer. So I come from a very traditional.
Okay, you and I have really similar backgrounds. I wanted to be a lawyer. I have a degree in communications. No wonder we're getting along.
Yeah. And, the whole lawyer thing wasn't really, I think, a personal passion of mine. I came from a background where a traditional Asian background where there are kind of these options that you took in life, right? It's like, if you are going to be successful, you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, all those lines. And so in my early years, I thought, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer. And when I was in school, I was on that path. And I had gotten a internship at the federal government in Canada. So I'm in Canada. And while I was there, I realized, number one, I didn't want to be a lawyer because the whole idea of becoming a lawyer was I was going to be a lawyer, get into politics, and change the world from that front. Right? Yeah, that was the idea. The idea that idea did not pan out, right? And so when I was in the internship for the government, I realized that wasn't it. But it was really interesting. During my time there, I had experienced a committee. So they grabbed me and put me into a committee. I was young, and they thought that I would know stuff that was going on the internet at that time. And so this is back in the early 2000s when the internet was just really coming into play. And the committee was about digital marketing. So how do you bring things into the digital world? How do you market your services and programs and all that stuff in the digital world? And I got really interested in that topic and those ideas. And so when I went back to school to finish my degree after I finished the internship, I mean, there was two options. I could have literally just quit the 3.5 years of education that I paid for and start anew, or finish it and figure out some job placements that got me into more marketing positions. And so the option that I took was, okay, let's just finish the degree that I paid for. And after I finish, let's look for some marketing opportunities. And that's how my experience in working for marketing agencies really
Mm-hmm.
began because I finished school and I received a job in marketing and I
Mm-hmm.
leveraged that job into a marketing agency, which is what
Okay.
I really wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
so in my 20s, I was working for a marketing agency. I worked for a number of
Mm-hmm.
marketing agencies. And I did the whole be a coordinator, be a manager, be a director thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then what most agency people do back then, and when we talk about marketing agencies, the landscape looked a lot different back then than now.
Mm-hmm.
So a marketing agency back then was largely, 50 to 100 people in the
Right.
agency and had a
Mm-hmm.
roof, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the clients that we serve were typically the Fortune 100s, Fortune
Right.
500s,
Mm-hmm.
because they could
Mm-hmm.
afford agencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
The landscape was very different now because
Yeah,
of
because
how
you charged a monthly fee, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm.
yeah, landscape looks different now because we have a
Mm-hmm.
lot more smaller
Mm-hmm.
agencies that
Mm-hmm.
exist now, and they can because the internet has allowed it. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, back to this being part of a larger agency. Well, the goal of joining the agency was then to go client side, right? So
Mm-hmm.
client side means, hey, you join a client and you help them grow their marketing team,
Okay.
right? And that was really the dream
Mm-hmm.
that I
Mm-hmm.
had was to join a client from the
Mm-hmm.
marketing agency, a good client that
Mm-hmm.
I shared values with,
Mm-hmm.
and help them grow the marketing team
Mm-hmm.
and go from there, climb the corporate
Mm-hmm.
ladder, so to speak, right? I was on that trajectory, 12 years into that trajectory. And one day I get a phone call from my mom. She was in Toronto. So
Mm-hmm.
Toronto is, I'm on the west coast of
Mm-hmm.
Canada, and Toronto is more on the east side, the
Mm-hmm.
east coast. And so my mom calls and says, okay, I'm not feeling well. I really need to come home. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously I was like, yes, come home
Mm-hmm.
right away.
Mm-hmm.
And so she took a flight home
Mm-hmm.
the next day after she checked herself into the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And within 3 weeks, she passed away. So
Oh no. Mm-hmm.
yeah, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer,
Mm-hmm.
stage 4,
Mm-hmm.
and it had spread. And
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks is what she had. And it changed my like it was
Mm-hmm.
the best way I can put it is if you think about stepping off a curb and getting hit by a bus,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was like. It was like I
Mm-hmm.
stepped off a curb and just got hit over by a bus. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And when she passed, or before she passed, there were social workers in the hospital, and
Mm-hmm.
um, the social worker had said to each of us, and they had taken us into those rooms and spoke to each of us. And I remember the one thing she said, and she said, if there's something you want to say or ask your mom, now is the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my challenge was in that state, like in that
Mm-hmm.
shock, I didn't know what
Right.
to
You could
ask.
not get your head to even think about what it could be.
No,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure that
Mm-hmm.
out. And after she passed, one of the core questions that came to my mind was, what did you regret in your life? Like if you could do something differently
Mm-hmm.
in your life, what would it have been? And I
Mm-hmm.
never asked my mom that
Mm-hmm.
question. And I started to ask myself that question, like, what would I regret?
Mm-hmm.
If I
Mm-hmm.
look back on my life and I was lying on my deathbed, what would I regret?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer that I had for myself was not stepping out and doing my own thing, just having followed the path of
Mm-hmm.
what was expected of me for so
Mm-hmm.
long. And I think that answer, my answer inspired me to start the business.
Mm-hmm.
The other, the other, the other inspiration was also this. My mom was a hard worker, the classic A type, never take your
Mm-hmm.
vacations. And to be
Mm-hmm.
very honest, not always the most present during
Mm-hmm.
family outings.
Mm-hmm.
And she did the best that she could. And
Mm-hmm.
I looked at her life and thought to myself, what if she had the right support? What if she had the right leadership training?
Mm-hmm.
What if she had the right
Right.
things in her job that
Mm-hmm.
allowed her or showed her
Mm-hmm.
how to have more balance
Mm-hmm.
between life and work? And that also inspired my business. And so I launched a business. I launched a business because my mom passed away, and I
Mm-hmm.
looked at her life and thought, what did I want for myself? And
Mm-hmm.
the business that I launched obviously served agency owners because
Mm-hmm.
that was the majority of my career. I knew agencies,
Mm-hmm.
I knew how they worked, but more so, my passion is to help agency
Mm-hmm.
owners gain back more time and freedom from their
Mm-hmm.
business so that they could live a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how my business began.
Mm-hmm.
And my business, I've been in business for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I started out as a consultancy. So I started the business consulting agency owners. So going in, looking at what was happening, giving them a game plan, and then helping them grow. So full consultation. And eventually we helped sell and exit an agency, which then led to other people
Right.
asking us, hey, would you be able to show us? And that led to the coaching element. So we do coaching as well too. And this year, something really interesting happened. So at the top of this year, I talked to a ton of agency owners, and I learn new things from agency owners all the time. One of the core questions I ask agency owners is, what would you like more of in your business, and what would you like less of in your business, right? And usually the answer to that question is more leads, more leads.
Okay.
Right,
See,
more
I would have
leads.
said time.
Yeah, no, usually it is. When I ask, hey, what do you want? Like there's more time and more leads. There's both of those answers. So, and the more leads question has been really interesting for me to dive into this year, because we all know this year the economy has been a lot different than the previous years, right? And so I was really interested in this idea of, okay, if most of the agency owners I'm talking to right now want more leads, well, the next question that I asked was, where are the best leads coming from?
Right.
And the answer that came down the pipeline was close relationships, right? Referrals. And that's how most agency owners thrive, is through close relationships and referrals. And so I'm thinking to myself, sitting there, okay, if that's the case, let me see if I can find a network that supports agency owners to do that. And I couldn't. I
Right.
couldn't find that. And so this year we built out Agency Together, which is our referral network that helps agency owners, niche agency owners, get more referrals and strategic collaborations. And it started out as what I would say an idea on a Google document. So it was a Google document with an idea on it. And I thought to myself, and the reality is, in the agency world, it's very what I call dog eat
Oh,
dog.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So dog eat dog is this concept of, if I get a client, you lose a client, right? And there's
Us against them.
and the feeling that I get when I hear that is a sense of divisiveness, right? And I didn't like that. I didn't like that feeling. And I thought, what if I could build something where agency owners could collaborate without stepping on each other's toes? And it started out as a Google document, literally a couple words on a Google document, sent out to connections that I've had, people that I've helped, people that I've come into contact with. And, in under 30 days, a cohort, which is what I call, you can call them pods or cohorts. I call them cohorts, but the first pod was built, 10 people in that pod, and that launched Agency Together. And so it really has been my passion project this year, not just in itself a project, but also a mission to help the agency space collaborate more. And, I know that's the long-winded way of kind of
No, it's
sharing
great.
my business, but those are the three elements of my business. And that's how I've gotten where I am today.
I love it. Well, first of all, your mother's very proud of you. We know she is, right? And I love this whole concept, because I have an agency. It's called Wise Women Communications. Started it 30-ish, 25-ish years ago. And it's in essence a one-person shop, but I bring on consultants when I need them, right? If we're doing a website, I bring in a web developer, all those things. And they're off doing their other freelance stuff all those times. And one of the things that I hated the most is the whole RFP process. And, and it really, it is, it's pitting people against each other. And, one time I remember, and I've shared this on the podcast before, I had this gentleman ask me for a bid. And now it was one of those where, and we've all had these clients, right? Or potential clients where we've gone, no. I mean, there was something about him, not scary or anything, that there was something about him. I thought, I just don't like this guy. But I went through the process because we all needed the money, right? That's where we get caught up in. And so, I submit the RFP, and he responds, and he says, well, I really like you and your organization, but I like this proposal. Can you implement it? And he sent it to me, and he had redacted the name of the agency, right? And except he left it on one spot, so I knew who it was. And and of course, the very first thing was like, oh, this is incredibly unethical. No, and so I turned him down. I said, no, you either like me, and I said, no, I mean, it was in that, and right, my gut was right to start with, and
icky.
Right, yeah, he was icky. But more importantly, I contacted that person, and I said, you need to know what this man has done. He gave me your proposal and said, implement it. And so she, of course, turned him down too. So then I got a nasty phone call from him. He couldn't understand it. I mean, so we all dodged a really good bullet on this one. But I mean, it really was, he was truly pitting us against each other. And I remember going for interviews on contracts. And now I always wanted to make sure that that when they were reviewing, that we were comparing apples and not apples and oranges, and all of those things. But it really was like a prize fight, right? And we all knew each other. This was when I lived in Denver, and we all belonged to PRSA or marketing groups or whatever. So you always knew who you were being pitted against. And it came back to icky. It just, I did not like that process.
Yeah, I got to speak into RFP. So RFPs, if someone's listening, doesn't know what it stands for, is a request for proposal. And when someone asks for a request for proposal, it often has a whole bunch of criteria.
Yes, we want you to do A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah, and sometimes those criteria are sneaky ways of asking you for the strategy.
For work, yes. We want you to, as part of the proposal, you need to provide us with 3 concepts. No.
And so in the agency world, most agency owners don't like RFPs for the very matter. They take a long time to write. Right. They pit people against people, and also they ask for the goods before you're getting paid for it, which really isn't fair, right? And I think the reality is, in our agency world, and let's be real, in any like B2B environment, most good projects come from straight word of mouth, referrals, or connections, right? And when we have that warm connection, that's how we're able to actually skip the whole RFP process, right? Because at the end of the day, if someone's going to give you a retainer, a large retainer, a high ticket retainer across the year, even 2 years, they want to trust you, right? And so that's why in the agency world, it's even more important that we spend time in building strategic connections.
Right.
So networks of people that can get you into the right doors, right? And I think that in the agency world, there isn't enough collaboration. Right. And fair enough, right? Look, I'll give you an example.
There is only a limited number of clients and dollars.
I don't think there's a limited number of client dollars. I actually don't think that's the case. I think the challenge looks like this. So if a agency owner is inside some networking group, right? And there's 5 agencies in there who are like, let's just say branding agencies, right? Of course, they're going to feel like they're stepping on each other's toes because they're all vying for that same business, right? However, I think in the agency space, there's more than enough room for what we call niche agencies, right? And what is a niche agency? A niche agency is clear on its service niche and industry niche. So service niche is SEO, branding, PPC, maybe it's some sort of consulting, but an industry niche is an industry, right? So
financial, banking,
ortho, healthcare, like some sort. And I think in the trajectory of where agencies are headed right now, the niche agency has, in my opinion, longer longevity in this economy, right? And why do I think the niche agency has a longer longevity in this economy? Well, I don't want to get into a big discussion about AI, but really AI removes the generalist, right? Like AI can be your generalist, right?
Right. It can be your initial copywriter.
Yeah. Whatever. And if we're looking for generalist content, generalist marketing, AI can do that. And what clients are going to want more and more of are agencies who can jump right in, know their buyer's journey, know their things, don't need to figure out the jargon, like all those things, right? So I firmly believe we're on a trajectory towards the agency space, at least small but mighty agencies being niche specific, right? And I also think that when niche agencies are leveraging their niche power, they are also collaborating with each other, right? And that's what agency together together is about. You can imagine we bring together different niches. If you have an ortho niche, a roofing niche, a expert consultant niche, and we bring them all together, they can share strategic connections. Because guess what? When you're a niche agency owner, hey, if I'm serving, let's just say I'm serving expert consultants, right? That's my agency, right? Well, if I'm serving expert consultants and I have someone here who is like I don't know, a hormone therapy clinic, whatever that is, they're not my right client. And they're going to break my systems and processes. So if I'm in the right network with the person that serves that niche, I might as well connect them, right? I might as well help my network get connected. And I think that is the power of agency together, is understanding that in our agency world, identifying and focusing in building your footprint in a niche is going to help you win. And when you understand that, then you can join a network that's going to help you build your footprint in the niche, but also connect you to other niche agency owners who can expand your network for you. And that's how I believe that we're going to grow together, prosper together as agencies.
Right. And I love this concept. And I've been doing it for years, where someone would say, hey, we need somebody to do X. I don't want to do X, whatever X is. But I know somebody who can. So I have always been happy to provide those referrals. And, it to me, it's a win-win-win, right? I didn't do a job I didn't want to do. My friend gets a job that's going to work, and the client got served better. And so everybody was happy. And when I would tell people I did this, 20 years ago, they're like, you're giving away business. No, I'm not. I didn't want to do that business. Now, there are times where, yes, we have taken clients that we didn't really want to do because, we had to pay those bills. But when you get past that point, having these networks is only going to benefit you. And, maybe it's the skills too, right? It's okay. We're an agency that focuses on marketing. Well, then we want to team up with an agency that focuses on SEO or, whatever it is, because then we can provide the client with even more. And if we had just said, well, no, we can only do this, the potential client is going to say, well, that's not going to work because I need this, this, this. Okay. So you're going to build this team where you have all of those things.
I'll just speak into this idea of like, different types of niches. I think sometimes when we think of the different types of niches that exist in the agency world, people just think of marketing, right? And everyone's marketing, right? But it's actually way more diverse than that, right? Sure, you've got your digital marketing, but you've got web development and analytics and e-commerce and video and copywriting,
social media,
marketing, content marketing, public relations. Like you've got the service niches are actually really wide, right? And so I cultivate different types of niches together. And I think that's the part about agencies together that makes it unique, is curating the pods so that people don't step on each other's toes and they can truly collaborate. And I feel like in our agency world, that's the thing that I'm really passionate about right now, is being the person that brings people together so that they can grow together, so they can prosper together, right? And that just requires being a matchmacher and a good facilitator, right? That's part of, that's part of what we're doing here, is being a good matchmaker and a good facilitator. But also, I think where people get really hung up when they think about joining like a referral network, they often think, well, how am I going to provide value, right? Like, how am I going to provide value in this network? Because I don't have 50 connections, right? And my answer to that is, first off, being in a referral network, yes, is about referrals and connections, right? But where the limited thinking comes from this, oftentimes when we're thinking about sharing a referral or a connection, we look at another business and only see one type of buyer that we can share with them, right? Or we're not clear who they actually need. And part of the work of getting good referrals and good connections is being crystal clear about who it is you want to be connected with and focused, right? And focused. And that's really a power, right? If you're going out into the world and you are wanting to get more referrals and connections and you're doing networking, rather than asking for something general, be specific. So let's just go back to the orthodontics niche. So let's just say a PPC agent, a pay-per-click agency focused on orthodontics, right? If I was going out in the world, I would be very clear about who my buyer's committee is.
Yes.
And that's what we're really good at identifying for each of our members is what is your buyer's committee? And, Deb, have you heard of the buyer's committee concept before?
No.
Okay, so a buyer's committee is made up of three different groups of people. So typically, when we think of going in the world, we're doing networking, we're asking for what we call the decision maker, right? So in the example of the
who is going to sign the contract?
Exactly, right? So in the example of the orthodontics, of the PPC agency serving orthodontics, they're usually thinking to themselves, well, I just need to meet more orthodontics, right? Now, when we think of the buyer committee, we actually open up our network, right? So this decision maker is there. It might be the orthodontist or the owner of the actual practice, but there's two other levels. There's the internal advocates and the external influencers, right? So the internal advocate could be their salesperson in-house, even their treatment coordinator in-house. So identifying the people inside the actual business that could connect them to the owner, right?
They might actually be the bigger influencer.
100%. So knowing how to ask for those means getting clarity on those first, right? And then the external influencer, well, all smaller businesses have external influencers, right? So the easiest one to think about is your accountant, right? That's the easiest one to think about, right? But in certain industries, you might have fractional COOs, right? You might have some sort of fractional consultant that comes in and does something for you. Those are what we call external influencers. So when we are clear about your buyer's committee, that is your decision maker, your internal advocate, and your external influencer, we immediately open up more opportunities for you to meet the right people so that you can grow your business.
Right. I love it. And when we have the right clients and we're doing the work we really want to do, then we're in our passion, right? And one of the hardest things with being an agency, small or large, is we have to do so many things. And it's even worse if we aren't in a niche and we're thinking we have to serve this and we have to serve this and we have to serve this. So pretty soon we're like, I don't want to play this game anymore. And so one of the things that this does is it helps prevent burnout. So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. There's only so many places one business owner can be. If you're an owner and you are using networking to grow your business, and as an agency owner, networking, strategic connections are where it's at, right?
Right.
Because we all know that B2B connections are how we land larger projects. And you can only be at one place at one time, right? So there's you, right? When you are in a group of people who know you and are in it to help each other grow, when they go out into the world, when they go networking, they might meet someone and it might not be the right fit for them in that very moment, but they might think, hey, I know James in here over
I
in our
need to
group.
make that introduction.
Yeah, let me ask this person right away. This is what I see happening. They go out networking, they're like, oh, I was out in this space and I met this person, not the right person for me, but I thought of James right away. And so I asked the person if he'd be interested in meeting so-and-so, and they gave me a yes, and I connected them. Right. So that's what we call
all of a
leverage.
sudden you've got a whole bunch of people who are your advocates. And of course the key is reciprocity. It's funny, we are part of C-Suite Network, and that is one of the keys in C-Suite Network is reciprocity. And so and now it has to be the right one, right? You can't just, okay, he gave me a lead, so I have to give them a lead. No, you need to think about it, and you need to make sure. But yeah, it's and that's the thing. And I think it comes back to team, right? It's a team that you're building.
Yeah. Again, reciprocity is key. I think one of the things that I've learned in my career is that my business is built on being a giver. And I think people underplay this power of giving to get, right? And obviously the goal is not to give to get, but the reality is when we are giving, in this case, connecting other people remember us. People know that we're on the lookout for them. And when people know that we're on the lookout for them, they're going to be on the lookout for us. Right? That's reciprocity as well, too. And you're right. Reciprocity is also gaining good referrals, right? And the reason why we have the buyer's committee concept is also for that very reason, right? So it increases the value of that referral. So reciprocity is it, oh, great, someone introduced me to someone else. Here's Joe over here who I don't know what they really do, but let me just connect them to this person here because randomly I should make
I have to meet my quota.
no quotas. Exactly. And I'm not a quota human being. I believe in high value, good connections, right? And that really comes from spending some time with people, right? And that's also why I think when we go to networking events, it's hard to build long-lasting relationships because I'm an introvert. And as an introvert, when I go to an event, it takes a lot of energy for me to meet people. And I think one of the common things I hear, not just from introverts, from a lot of people, is that they go to an event, they meet people, and they may strike up a good conversation. But then when they come back from the networking event, guess what happens? The relationship, the connection goes poof. No one really has an intention to follow up.
Because I had 4 emails that I needed to respond to, this, that, everything else, right?
Yeah. So it just goes poof. All the time you spent at the networking event goes away because you come back to a busy schedule. And before you know it, 3 weeks have passed and you're like, it's too late to connect with that person anymore, right? And that's also why I feel it's really necessary to have a place where people come in there and it's focused, right? The focus is a community that helps people get referrals and connections, and then building that community up so that people can get to know each other better. And when I say get to know each other better, I as an introvert, I'm allergic to small talk. I'm allergic to small talk, and I love getting into the deeper conversations. And when you have a community that fosters those deeper conversations, guess what? People get to know each other faster. Right. When they get to know each other faster, they're able to build those collaborations and partnerships faster.
Right. Well, and it is, the whole premise of know, like, trust, right? Because I'm not going to refer somebody to you if I don't really know you, because it's my reputation on the line. You might take the client and something goes horribly wrong, and then that client is going to go, well, Deb referred you, it's that external person again, right? And so I want to know more about who it is that I'm referring to, so what, how do they function? Are, all of those, are they remote? What are their skill sets? All of those things, before I'm ever going to say, hey, Bob, you need to talk to my friend Audrey.
Yeah. It's I think you hit the nail on the head there, because in order for us to share our networks and connections, we want to know that that person is in it for the same reason, right? They're in it for the exact same reason.
Right.
And sometimes when we're out in communities or other networks, I think people can show up with this like saying things like, let's collaborate, or let's do the thing, and then nothing really comes out of it, right? Or it becomes very one-sided, right? And you know, I call that concept like the undercover taker. So like the undercover taker. So you come across people who are undercover takers, meaning they say they want to build a connection with you. They say they want to share referrals and connections and collaborations. But at the end of the day, it then becomes one-sided, and a lot of time is wasted, right?
Right.
So how do we weed those things out when we're actually people who know that we get, how do we weed that out, right? Well, how we weed it out is a curated space that's very purposeful, right? So vetting people and curating people who understand that giving is getting and are in it to really share, right? That's part of the work, right? And I feel like, I feel like for the most part, I think agency owners want to give. Like they want to give,
right.
they want to
That's part of why we're doing this, right? We're doing this to help businesses succeed. So
and so there wasn't a platform, right? And so the agency together is this platform that actually facilitates this. So anyone who has that giver's heart, who understands that referrals and strategic connections are the lifeblood of agency, and wants a focused place to do that, well, now they have a space to do that, right? And I think I gotta say this, I'm very passionate about it. And I think as I speak, that really comes through. And
oh, it does.
and in my mind, and I've said this to people, this may sound a little ridiculous, but in my mind, this concept that I'm building here, in my heart, it changes the world and it's in a small little way.
Right. But then it can spiral out from there, right?
Yeah. And that's why I'm so excited about it, because I I see it as changing the agency space. It's a small little way to change it, but nonetheless, I see it as impactfully changing how agency owners work together.
Right.
So yeah.
I love that. And it really is all about trust. Years ago, I was working with someone and our client were friends of mine, very good friends of mine. And they opened a business and we did everything for them. I mean, soup to nuts. We did the whole works. It was really great to have a project that big. But get this phone call from my friend, the client, and he says, "You got a problem." I said, "Who?" And he said, "Your graphic designer contacted me and said, hey, if you need something in the future, work with me directly because it'll be cheaper." And and I was just stunned that she had gone around me like that. And so I contacted her and she denied it. And I said, "Honey, I have the email." They forwarded me the email. So, of course, I was immediately done with her. They would never work with her. And anybody who ever asked me about her, now I might not say anything bad, but I would do the dramatic pause, right? And they would know, oh, there's something going on there. And it she was just trying to increase her business, but she did it in a way that was not good. And I think then what happens is we all worry about that. We all think everybody is in it just for themselves. So I'm just not going to trust you to start with. And, that's the opposite way of what we need to be doing.
You're pointing out a good, you're pointing out part of a journey that I think a lot of business owners go through, right? And that is meeting people who just don't understand the invisible fair rules of play.
Right.
They don't understand the invisible fair rules of play, and you get burned, right? And I think part of the journey of being a business owner is learning that, and this is what I feel. I've been burned, and I think people listening to this have been burned before. I think the majority intent of people out there is not to burn others. Okay.
Right.
I think that most people out there want to help each other, right? But nonetheless, I think that oftentimes in our journey, maybe you come across someone who's new, who hasn't really thought things through,
Right.
who doesn't really understand this concept of like, okay, if I'm inviting you in to help me with a client as a contractor, then the rule of thumb is you're not going to steal them from under my nose.
Right. Oh, right? Yeah. And now I have a pretty good contract that I developed because of this. Right.
Right. And so that's what we build contracts for. Right. But I think it's those experiences that can teach us, I think most people or some people or everyone I come across or majority of people are going to be out to cheat me. And I don't think that is the case. I do think that those things happen. And I think that it's a lesson for the business owner, but I've also seen it be a lesson for the other side, right? For the person who did the thing and didn't realize that, okay, this was not good practice.
Right. Yeah.
Learn from that as well too. Right? So nonetheless, I hear what you're saying. I do think, getting burned is part of the process. And I think building an environment where people don't get burned, where people can trust each other and partner, like that's the key, right? To moving collaboration forward.
Yeah. And I think that the positives happen far more often. We hear about the negatives, right? And then they kind of stick with us because my other partnerships have been absolutely wonderful. But I remember that bad one, and so, but I love that what you do is you have a deliberate way to get everybody to know, like, and trust. And part of this too is I'm sure you're going, okay, their personalities are different enough, they probably wouldn't be good working together. And not that there's anything wrong with either of them. It's just, this person is a hard hitting, hard driving, and this one is more mellow, right? Whatever it is. And so part of this agency together process is finding that out. And then everybody knows, okay, this person is this way, this person is this way, and then we go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, with agency together, it really is bringing together people who have the right mindset and what I truly believe is the similar value systems, right?
Right.
And so I think sometimes personalities can be different, but values can still align, right? And so agency together is really bringing people together whose values align, right? And when we think of referrals, connections, and collabs, they're actually three different things, right? And in there's also partnerships, right? So referrals is giving someone a piece of business that is more hot to trot, right? So it's already ready hot to trot. And we've had that happen inside agency together. In the first meeting alone, of 9 members, we had 27 high value referrals and connections shared, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And along the way, two are hot to trot. So about to close projects, right? So those are referrals, right? And connections are different, right? So connections are people that you may not have met otherwise that can get you deeper into your niche, right?
Right.
It could be a director or a manager, someone inside a business that you can start a conversation with and continue that relationship so that when time is right, whether that's short term or long term, you have that connection and can get that piece of business, right? That's a connection, right? Collaborations are different. So collaborations in agency together is sure in the pod, if let's say I have a social media agency and then I have a SEO agency, well, if the SEO agency needs some social media support for the client, they can collab on that, right? So that's a collab, right? And then last is partnership, right? So partnership is basically saying, look, like you serve this industry, right? Maybe it's you serve SEO for let's just say kids toys, okay? SEO for kids toys. Oh, and I do social media for kids toys. Well, that's a great partnership.
That's a perfect partnership.
Perfect, right? So there's 4 levels, right? When you think about like the output of the output you can have when you join upon an agency together. There's referrals, there's connections, there is collaborations, and then there's potential partners. And that's what's exciting, right? It's the opportunity for those 4 things.
Right. Well, and for the people who are part of that, they know that there's all these different opportunities, and I'm kind of guessing that sometimes they might, there might be some that they absolutely love the partnership process. So that's going to be what they go more towards, or making the connections, or and then there are those, and I love these people who live to do referrals. I mean, that's just doing that matchmaking. You used that word before. They get the biggest thrill out of that, and so I keep saying that I love the fact that now this is all in one place, because we have struggled to find these places, and that's where it is a challenge, is because back to, we don't trust. We don't want to open ourselves up. And more importantly, we don't have time, right? Because we're out there beating the bushes. We're trying to do all this stuff. And the key is that this makes that part easier. We were saying, people say, what do you want the most of? Time. And so when they want time and leads, this is the perfect way to get them, because they're not chasing leads that are not going to be beneficial.
100%. They're not chasing leads. That's the thing. They're not chasing leads that are going to be beneficial. They're receiving leads that have been vetted because someone understands the buyer committee. And I love what you just said about saving time, because you could come into agency together and it's 2 hours in a month. Okay. So our meetings are 1 hour and twice a month, right? And those 2 hours can get you referrals and connections that are right fit, versus going out and doing 10 hours of networking on your own.
Right. And the networking is never an hour. It's the time getting, it's about a 3-hour process, right?
You're driving there, you're going to the event, you're driving home, right? And so, it's a whole entire process. Whereas it's 2 hours focused and concentrated.
Mhm.
And on average, per strategic connections meeting, we're seeing about 20 referrals and connections shared, right? So we're seeing, like, I'm seeing, and I'm a numbers person, so I track our numbers. And when I look at what's happening there, I think about, okay, let's compare what is possible through coming and engaging in agency together community versus just going out and networking. And I'll say this as well too. The community is, yes, it's referrals, it's connections, it's collaborations, it's partnerships, but something really cool happens inside these pods, these cohorts that I have. And this is also the value that people give. Things like active listening, seeing members actively listen to each other, that creates trust and connection.
Right.
I'm really seeing that happen. People are actively listening, encouraging each other. These are all values that come out of being close-knit, growing relationships
Right.
with people, right? And like there's other things that have flown from it that I have to say, like it comes from a giver's heart, like informal mentorship, right? That's happening as well too, right? And so we see these things overflowing from the group itself. And I just want to mention those things because it is the values that have brought these things to life, right? It's the mentorship, it's the encouragement, the active listening, it's giving energy and positivity, right? Those are all things that are highly valuable as a business owner and in a community and in a network, because let's face it, we don't want to just come into a cold space where it's like, okay, we're just getting referrals and connections and we're leaving.
Right.
Sure,
You're going to stand and give your 30-second spiel.
Exactly. That's the focus. But above and beyond that, there's a facilitated space, which is what this is, that generates that listening, that generates that encouragement, that generates the positivity among the members, right? And so I just want to express that too, because those things are what's important to me as well in building a good network with the right people.
I love it. And I think, I'm going to come back to the whole time thing, because I tell people, we only have 28 hours every day. Seems like that, right? But we absolutely have to figure out how to focus our time. Even if it's just, I want to focus my time so I have more free time, more fun time, whatever. Before COVID, I would go to 2 or 3 networking things a week. And going to networking events in Atlanta is a big deal. I mean, nothing's close. You have to drive a long ways. I mean, all these various things. I loved them. I love seeing the people because I am Miss Social Butterfly. I love seeing everybody. Southern cooking. Yeah. And always good programs, things like that. And so I loved all that. Well, then, plunk came COVID. And Georgia was kind of bizarre because we opened things back up really pretty fast. I mean, they started opening things up for meetings of up to 75 people in May, of 2020. And now part of that was because we could have them outside, and that worked, but I didn't go. And part of that is because I do have health concerns. 100%. And I, hated wearing a mask because then my glasses fogged up. I mean, this was just always such fun. And so I just didn't go. Well, then all restrictions were lifted and I didn't go because when I thought about it, it was, what did I get from that? Well, I had great conversations with fun people that I liked. I had really good food and, the education stuff was interesting or whatever it was, the programming. Did I lose business when I stopped going? No. And so when I really thought about it, I thought, so I was going to all these things just to be social butterfly, right? And so I still am members of all of those groups because I think it's important to support your local business community. We have business associations here, which are much smaller than chambers because the chambers here are gigantic. And so they're kind of based on your area and things like that. But they're all less than $100. And so I'm fine. Plus, my name's in directories and, has that gotten into anything? No. But yeah, I do believe it's important to support those. But since February of 2020, I have been to 2 in-person networking events. And again, both of those I got dressed up for nothing, and because now, a big part of that was they obviously were not the right networking groups. I was, and so that was, one of the things that I really needed to think about. But, how many times are we just wasting our precious time doing these things that aren't getting us anywhere aside from, good Southern cooking? But, it's, and so to think about having a very focused, and I do that obviously through C-suite, with some of the things that I do, but and I think that is maybe the thing that a lot of us have learned post COVID is we have to focus. Our time is very limited. What do we need to do to focus? And we don't need to go have chicken 3 times a week.
I love how you said that networking can fulfill a social need, and it's not a bad thing to fulfill that social need. I think as a business owner, we have to ask the question of return on that time investment, right? And I think that's what you're getting at here. You can do a whole lot of networking. It could feel like you're doing something because you're not out there networking.
Right. And I'm handing out business cards, which I don't even know if I have business cards anymore. I realized when I went to my first one, I'm like, I have no business cards.
No one uses those anymore. And off topic here, but I have a digital business card. But yeah, anyhow, anyhow, I think that the core reason that I think people get tired of networking is exactly what you just mentioned. You go and spend all these times in these different places, and at the end of the day, you come back and there's very little to show for it, right? And
your little pile of business cards, or the contacts on your phone, whatever.
Yeah, and so the key word that you've just said there, one thing that I've, in the last couple of years of my life have really been key on honing is focus, right? Because the things that we truly focus on grow, right? And so for anyone who understands that networking is important to their business, but also sees doing networking out in the world as wasting quite a bit of time, then focus is coming into a space that is very intentional for referrals and connections, right? And that's why Agency Together is here, because again, it's the word focus, facilitated, curated, right? And I feel like if someone was gonna go out there and spend time networking, they might as well do it in a space where everyone has the same idea. It's like, I'm here to network, but the reality is I'm coming in here because I do want referrals and connections. I'm not shy about saying that, right? And
right. I mean, that's the other thing. Was sometimes we, like we go and we realized we didn't talk to anybody about getting business, right?
Yeah. 100%. It's like I think there's also like you go into a networking event and everyone has this idea that it's not kosher to be that icky, creepy person, right?
Yeah, so we don't want to be the used car salesman.
No. And so we stick to a lot of that small talk stuff, right? And when we stick to a lot of the small talk stuff, it actually takes you a lot longer to build that relationship into an actual connection for you, right? So what if you just shortcut all that, right? So that's the goal, is to shortcut all that, take away that small talk, build the purpose in referrals and connections, now build the platform that gets people going deeper, faster, right? And that's what we're doing here, right? It's like, let's shortcut and save you guys time. We all know we're here for building our businesses. We want to like the people we work with. So let's take away the small talk. Let's build in the deeper connections faster, but also understand that because it's curated, the values already aligned, right? So immediately, because that's curated, we know that there's a better opportunity, higher opportunity for everyone in here to really grow together.
Right. Yeah. When I went to those networking things, I learned what people had done last summer and, all of those things, but nothing really more than that. And of course, the problem with a lot of those networking groups is we go and we hang out with our friends, or at least the people who already, because I'm going to go meet somebody. Now, I'm an extrovert. Sometimes though, I'm like, I'm just going to go stand in the corner, right? There are times where, but yeah, we go in and I did that. I did that exact same thing. When I went to these 2 things that I did this year, I walked in specifically looking for someone I knew so I could latch onto them, and that was going to get me nowhere because they already knew me, right? I needed to go talk to new people. And I don't know if it was just I was out of the habit or whatever, but I thought, nah, and so I still look at, every month I get their stuff and because like I said, I still remember. And but now what I'll be looking for is what is the program? Because to me, that is a big part of those networking things is, am I going to go and learn something? And that's
Mhm.
okay. But, yeah,
Yeah.
like, we're in, very close to the end of the year, and I've been to 2 networking events the entire year.
Yeah. I mean, it's human nature, right? We go to an event, we see someone we know, we gun
Right.
for them because it's safe, right? So,
Yes.
and then we start the
Safe. That
conversation.
is the thing. Yep.
It's safe, right?
Hmm.
And that's also why when we go networking, sometimes it is really hard to expand your true network because you're
Hmm.
meeting people that you already know
Hmm.
or that you've come across a number
Hmm.
of times
Hmm.
already.
Hmm.
And I think the goal is in order to expand your network is to put yourself in a
Hmm.
space where you have the
Hmm.
opportunity to meet brand new people in different areas of the
Hmm.
world so you can broaden
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
reach, right?
Right.
And that doesn't always happen when you show up at the same
Hmm.
things, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, and I feel like with agency together, we create people from across. Right now, it's
Hmm.
across Canada and the
Hmm.
U.S. And so
Hmm.
the goal is that the goal is to broaden opportunities, meaning that hey, if you have a certain niche in, let's say, where I live, Vancouver, now's
Hmm.
your time to figure out, hey, if someone is in
Hmm.
Seattle or someone
Hmm.
is in
Right.
Atlanta, can you get a
Hmm.
foothold in
Hmm.
that by just
Hmm.
working with one person there and
Right.
maybe that expands
Hmm.
to two or three, right?
Hmm.
And that's important because if you keep showing
Hmm.
up in the same rooms where the same
Hmm.
people are at, you are not going to be able
Hmm.
to broaden those
Hmm.
opportunities. Right.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I'll say that. And I'll say that as kind of a closing thought on
Hmm.
the value of
Hmm.
building
Right. Hmm.
relationships outside of
Hmm.
just the people that
Hmm.
you know.
Right. Well, and let's be honest, especially because of technology, it is now a very small world. And you never know, when somebody is going to have that connection 1,000, 2,000 miles away. And so that's the thing. Well, oh my gosh, Audrey, this has been so much fun, and we have to do this again. But for somebody who's going, I need to learn more. How do they find you, and what are the services that you provide?
Yeah. So if you're an agency owner and you want to explore a values aligned network for agency owners, that is really about getting consistent referrals
Mhm.
and collaborations, you can send us an email at support@audreyjoykwan.com, or you can check out audreyjoykwan.com/agency together.
Mhm.
And yeah, check out our mission. And if it's right for you, send us an email and let's see if Agency Together is for you. That's, our core focus right now this year is
Mhm.
growing our network and really helping agency owners collaborate. And yeah, we hope that if it's something your listeners feel aligned with, that they reach
Mhm.
out.
Right. Well, and it also might be that they're thinking, hey, I'm in a different industry. But maybe this would be something that could work for us. I keep thinking of realtors, right? Realtors are just, they really just, yeah, 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 but yeah, they could get so much out of collaboration, or, all sorts of other industries. And so, not that you're going to expand to do that, but, you might have some tips and things. And you do have lots of resources and great information on your website.
Thank you so much.
Well, we've been having such a great time to chat, and we do have to do this again. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah, speaking from my experience of being in business for over 10 years, if I were to leave business owners with just this, with a thought, it's this. I think it's really important to know when to pivot in your business so that your passion and your strengths align with the market needs. I think that you can hang on to certain things that aren't working for too long and that zaps your time and energy. So I will say, as a final thought, don't be afraid to do strategic experiments in your business. Agency Together was one of those experiments that took off, and without having the desire to just explore and pivot and make changes, it wouldn't have come about, right? And so I really encourage people who are in their business right now and they're feeling like there's something that might be missing, go out there, do some strategic experiments and see what comes to mind, see what creativity comes out of that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Well, I am Deb Creer. I've been having such a fun conversation with Audrey Kwan. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.